in the room.
We're trying to air it out.
That's all right. I am, man. How are you? Nice to meet you, man. How's it going? Nice to meet you, man. Nice to meet you. No, you're good. You're good. Nice to meet you guys. Yeah, hell yeah. There it is, man. Yes, sir. What up? What up?
What's up, young drama?
What's up, man? How are you?
Nice to meet you.
Yes, you too, man. How's it going? How's my lav placement? Did I do all right?
No.
All right, my friend, welcome to Mentor Monday. So as you kind of are familiar, this is exciting because you're the first guest that has just been truly off of my social media. And that's the goal, right? Is I really want to post these videos and hopefully add some value somewhere to someone and then get people to reach out and like really connect with the people that are following me and whatever. So that's really exciting for us. You have a little bit of, you kind of know what I do here. Why don't you tell me who you are and what you're up to and where you're from and give me like the quick rundown.
Sure. So my name is Alex Gallo. I'm 18. I'm from Victorville, California. Born in Orange County, but lived most of my life in Victorville.
Got it.
And currently right now I'm about to go into college as a sophomore. I have a clothing brand and a social media marketing agency. And for my clothing brand, I started it like ending my freshman year of high school. I was going to my sophomore year. And it was actually because of you and Rob. So
hell yeah.
Like, I've always watched your shows from Rob and Big and then Fantasy Factory. I was like, as a little kid, I was always like, I never like told myself, oh, I want to be a lawyer, I want to be a doctor. I've always like wanted to do something by myself. But so recently, I actually got my shirt on Bryson Tiller. I was like, maybe it's a sign that I should get back on. So and I've just been helping businesses in my area in terms of social media management, growth, and mostly direct advertising too. All right.
And then why college? Why did you choose to go to college with this being your two like sort of hustles?
Honestly, it's my parents was always like, you have to go to college to be somebody, because they always told me, don't be like us, just go to college.
Okay, well I guess this is the point where you can literally ask me anything under the sun and I'll do my best to try to like give you any insights or anything I've learned or whatever. We can just kind of have a discussion, but that's really the goal, is like I want you to literally just take this time to pick my brain. Not that I by any means know it all, but maybe I could like bounce some ideas or anything like that. But yeah, so anything particular that's on your mind about that stuff?
Recently I've been asking myself a lot, like, why am I doing what I'm doing? And just business in general, like being an entrepreneur, like is this truly what I meant to be? Or like, like kind of.
So let me ask you a couple of things. Like my first question is like, what's your alternative?
To be honest with you, I wouldn't go work a job. I would just try to figure it out. I've always had that feeling as a kid, like, I just can't do it. Like, I can't be whipping a Honda, bro. Like, I have to do something. Like, I have to break the cycle in my family.
One place where a lot of people go wrong is they kind of wait for this like magical moment to come and like a fairy to come in at night and tap you and say, this is what you're supposed to be doing, this is your passion, whatever. And it literally never happens, and nothing even close to that ever really happens. So what I would say is what you're doing right now is exactly what you should be doing. It doesn't mean that your life is going to be, the end result is you're going to be an incredible social media manager, but I can guarantee you that the fact that you're attracted to that, it means something. So it's something about the skill set that you're learning, maybe meeting new people and pitching them ideas, or it's using social media to build a business, the marketing aspect of it, the clothing line stuff. There's something about what you're doing that you are naturally drawn to because you did it under your own free will. Nobody forced you, right? And so I would actually do the opposite from questioning it and like triple down on all of it and go super hard. And I'm telling you that like this is a really hard thing and we're not really taught this because it's hard to teach, but all you have is your instincts. And that's literally, no one's ever gonna carve out a path for you, and if they do, it's gonna be the wrong one. I think that you're so incredibly young. I think that like the fact that you're even having these thoughts and going out on your own and trying things is like something to be really proud of. And I think around like 25, you're gonna really hit your stride and you're gonna say that you know what your purpose is and your passion is, and you're gonna still be ahead of the game. You know what I mean? But I think what a lot of people do is they question themselves, and all that time that was spent questioning yourself is taking away from developing into the person that you're supposed to be. Yeah, you sit and think, and you think like, well, what if this isn't right? Well, maybe it isn't right, but it's definitely going to lead you to the right thing. Sitting at home or going to college if you don't like it or whatever it is simply going to lead you further and further away. Yeah, and it's going to make everything seem more and more and more scary, and then all of a sudden you're going to be one of the countless people that just their new excuse is, well, I'm too old and the time passed. You know, I'm 40 years old or whatever. If 75% of it is for me, 25% of it might be miserable, but that doesn't mean that it's not for me. And just be aware of yourself, you know what I mean? And notice like, what's making me miserable? What parts do I hate the most? What is that kind of telling me? And that'll lead you into the right spot. You need to take a moment and like take a couple deep breaths and realize that to be at this position at 18 and to even have these questions and be able to have this conversation, I think you're like way ahead of the game, and you just got to let the process like play out a little bit. We're trying to create as much content as we possibly can. And there are times when I'm like, man, I just don't like this. Like, I don't like feeling like I have to do 20 pieces of content every day and do videos and blah, blah, blah. And I'm not, who am I to think that I can talk all the time and do this sort of stuff? You know, like I have, and then there's, like I said, like there's certain marketing things. Maybe for Young and Reckless, I'll have to go to some event and go act like the guy and blah, blah, blah. And I'll have this feeling before of like, man, this is the wrong thing for me. Like, I'm not that dude. I don't like going out and trying to just act cool and act like somebody. Yeah. And so this isn't the thing for me. The truth is, it is, and in the majority of the time, I feel more and more comfortable and more stable, but you always have those moments where you question it. And my whole entire like young life living here, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. You know, I was just trying anything. Like, I started trying to do music production, and then I tried to get in on the TV shows that we were doing however I could, not because I saw any end there. I knew that my salary on those shows would never be enough for me to retire. It was never an end game.
It was a door.
It was a door, and all I did was I saw like, oh, there's something going on here. That there's action and there's opportunity here. So I need to do whatever it takes to be involved in this, because a few of our friends are going to make it and a bunch are going to get left behind, and I want to be on this side. By nature, I wasn't like the be really funny, dance around on camera guy. I was never good at it. I just knew like, get in there, you want to be involved, you want to be a part of this thing. Be funny, like don't take yourself too serious, don't, you know what I mean? Like, don't ever do that. And have fun with it, but how can I lead this as quickly as possible to a real life?
How could you use it? Right?
Yeah, you know, and how can I make sure that like, and I don't want it to come off negative, I don't think it does, but like, how can I make sure that I realize this is only going to happen for a really small amount of time, and make sure that when it's over, I come out with a life established, or at least like on the right track. Who knows what your ultimate calling will be one day, but you're getting an opportunity to learn how to package up ideas, which is what I do when I sell a new collection to Macy's, right? So same thing. You're getting a chance to learn how to sell somebody on an idea. You're getting a chance to learn how to market, how to use other people's money to buy Facebook ads and do that sort of stuff. So I know you're trying to do a good job, and I'm sure that you are, but you're also kind of getting a shot at learning all of these different things for free and getting paid to do it, and that will eventually pay off. You know, like I have friends who have launched multi-million-dollar businesses simply from really understanding Facebook targeting. And then you find a good product and you patch it in, but it was really Facebook targeting that did it, or you know, and now they're millionaires. You know, and that comes from you're in the moment. That's really your college. Like, college isn't your college. I know that you feel obligated to go to college and have that at least safety net and whatever, and that's okay. But your real college is what you're doing right now. Yeah, and it's the same as, like, imagine a kid that's in college that's like, yo, I don't really feel like this is for me, I want to drop out. Like, that's kind of the feeling you're having about your work stuff. You know what I mean? And it's fine. It's not supposed to all click at 18. But you're getting an education and you're learning, and you know, it will pay off. And I think at some point, it might not be tomorrow, but at some point you're going to be faced with the question of, do you leave that to give the appropriate amount of time to what you're working on, or do you stay and potentially waste time? You know what I mean? Because even my friends that went were the ones who went for a specific purpose, mastered that purpose, and they needed
This is
it.
what I'm gonna do.
Yeah, or like doctors or lawyers, or you know what I mean?
When it comes to time to be social, I'll be social, but it's just like I've always loved my time, and I kind of use that to my advantage when I do have those thoughts, when I have those moments. I'll just sit down, I'll just ask myself a bunch of questions, I'll meditate or I'll read books. And I feel like that is my college. Like I feel like I love learning, but I only love learning what I want to learn. Like that's always been my thing, and I've always tried to explain that to everybody, my parents or whatnot.
That's the mentality of a family that came here from Mexico or from any other country. And that's why like a lot of like immigrant children do really, really well here, because they have that mentality of like, I have to make it happen here. My parents gave, you know what I mean? There's no choice. And so you have to be aware that families, for good reason, they don't know the right answer. They don't necessarily know how to like foster all of your passions, but they know that that's at least kind of a safe bet. They know at least if you have that paper, you'll be able to survive here, right? So they're just worried about like the bare minimum. At a certain point, you're just gonna have to decide, like, is it worth me sort of cutting the lifeline and telling my family, watch, I'm going to do this anyway, even though they completely don't understand it, to go for it. And you know, for most people, that's the drive that it takes to really push you over the edge. Like you kind of have to cut, you know, there was an old story about the people that went into battle and they burned all their ships in the, so they couldn't go back, right? I love that story. And so that's kind of what this is. And so it's like, whenever you're ready to cut that lifeline, the problem is if you fail, you're gonna have to live with your parents saying, haha, we told you so, and you're a failure, you know what I mean? But you just can't do that. You just have to like, give it no other option. Everyone has those like limiting beliefs and all those different things, right? Everybody in the world. Your brain is exactly the same as building your body, right? Or your fitness. We just don't think about it that way. We don't think about it that way, I think, because probably some because of like religion and stuff like that. And also because those things just start to seem kind of like hippy dippy, like weirdo stuff. Yeah, like, oh, you weirdo, meditate. Even meditating was super weird. I mean, like a year ago, I feel like meditating was weird, and now it's super cool. But all that is mental fitness. You know what I mean? And it's like, it drives me crazy that we can, if somebody's overweight and like huffing and puffing walking up the stairs, we say like, oh, well, it's because you're out of shape. Like, why don't you get on a treadmill? But if someone's having these like super negative, depressive thoughts and all these different things, don't get me wrong, it can be something else. But a lot of times, you're not working on yourself in that way. At the end of the day, your brain's an organ, and even though it's an extremely complicated one that we don't really understand, it's still an organ, and you have to take that in consideration.
Probably the most important one too.
100% it is. It controls everything, right? So what people don't, you know, there's a reason why you can have a brain injury or go to war, right, and have post-traumatic stress disorder and never be the same. And we look at that and say, oh yeah, that's a thing, but you can't get better. Right? Like we understand trauma in that way, but not, you know what I mean? And that's the part that just drives me nuts. And I'm no neuroscientist, but like I read a book called 10% Happier by Dan Harris that changed the game on that for me. Because this was a guy who was like a news anchor and had a complete anxiety mental breakdown on air, and essentially his life was over. And he just did some research and started looking into meditation, and all he says is, it made me 10% happier. Didn't change the world, but it does help. Meditating started for me because I was having a super bad like anxiety time frame, you know, and I just was like, I don't know, just super down. And I went to dinner with a couple friends of mine who are older guys who have successful businesses. And they're like, oh, you should really try meditating. And at the time I was like, that sounds crazy. You know, like I'm not a Buddhist, like what does that mean? And they're the ones who put me onto it, and I started looking around. That's how I found the book. And as I started doing it, more and more people kept bringing it up, and so that just strengthened my like reassurance.
So you saw a pattern in people. Like, successful people are like, oh.
Yeah, and if you look at almost any interview of like successful people or high stress or whatever, they all meditate. And it's just like, okay, at some point, like they have to be right. But yeah, it's a huge thing, and it's just not something we're taught. Like I wish you were taught that in college or in high school, or like how to like. You go to phys ed class, how come you don't go to like mental ed class? You know what I mean? Like you should really be taught how to deal with stress and anxiety and all this stuff, but you're not, and that's why like, you know, we have a lot of the problems we have.
Did you have like a mentor? Like
I don't know whether it was the fact that I was actually so much younger than everyone, so I had no choice but to be a mentee, or what it was, but I literally just remember like trying to soak up anything from anyone. And maybe that's kind of what led me to doing my podcast, is that same mentality. Right. But I would just go hang out with Johan in Venice, and I would talk to Big Black for hours, and I would obviously watch what Rob was doing, and I would see what like Ken Block was doing with DC, and just be like, man, like I want in somehow, but I know I gotta soak all this up.
So everything around you inspired you, like?
Everything. And it still does, and that's what like truly, when I do this podcast, it's like, it's the best exercise for me ever, because it doesn't allow me to get like cocky or sit at home or whatever, because every day every week I talk to somebody who's way smarter than me and most of the time accomplished more than me and whatever, and you have to have that. But no, leaving Ohio, I was scared shitless. Like I moved here and I was like, what the fuck? Like I did too much. Like I'm gonna have to move home. This is too crazy. But you know, it settled in. Right. But go, like, take the risk, do the thing. Try it, be helpful, let go of your ego, your pride, your anything, and just completely do whatever anyone around you needs. Because trust me, you're gonna learn. Like anyone that is worth you letting all your pride aside and folding their laundry is worth learning from. Humbling myself and just diving into it and saying, what can I do, you know, to make this work? And it worked out. And it could have not, and it could have, you know, there could have been no TV show, and I still would be the person that I am, meaning I'm still going to work hard and I'm still going to learn and figure it out. But you will learn that when you take those massive leaps and submerge yourself into massive other worlds, that's when all of a sudden you start getting really lucky. Yeah. Where I got really, really lucky was MTV started asking, what's Drama doing? You know, like we know he doesn't work for Rob anymore. What's he doing just hanging out there? And so I had an answer. And once again, it's where like, if they would have said, what's Drama doing? And I said, well, Drama can do something. What do you want him to do? Like, he can start a clothing line or like whatever. They would have been like, oh, Drama's doing nothing. It was only because I had this thing that it worked out perfectly. And then the opportunity came and bam, here's what Drama's doing. And now my whole office is lined with Young and Reckless posters and fake CADs. And I'm wearing, blah, 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 look at me. And it only came from those things aligning, right? You know, when I went to high school with all my cousins that are also family members, also cousins, are like, what in the hell happened? You know, it's like you were like the quiet dude with your hood up listening to your iPod, and now all of a sudden you're on TV, and now, now you got a clothing line, now you're Mentor Monday? Sick. You know what I mean? Like, how did this happen? But it was scary, man. And I know it's something that I just don't talk about a lot because I know it's kind of one of those like, oh, we feel bad for you, like things. But like, I was scared to death. Like, LA was the scariest place ever to me. And I didn't know what the hell was going on, but it paid off. And so it's my job now to remind people and myself to keep putting yourself in those uncomfortable situations and go to the places where you're having panic attacks and you know what I mean, and deal with it, because that's where like the massive growth is. Once again, just to circle back, because it's happening so much, that's what all these influencers did that took people by storm. I mean, these guys are doing $10 million a year in merch. Why? Because they had an audience first. The product can be crappy, unfortunately, if you have that audience there ready to buy it. God willing, you have a cool brand that actually stands for something and a following, and then you fulfill it with the product, it's game over, and you never had debt in your life, you know? One of the biggest things I hear now is if I had investors. And it's like, man, you don't have investors because you don't have an idea. If you had a good idea, you would have investors. That's how it flows. It doesn't, nobody in history has ever said, here's $1 million, because you look like a thinker. You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't work. So you go sell people on your idea. You go raise excitement. But everyone likes to sit and say, well, if I had investors, then I would make a lot more money. No, you'd just be in debt. That's what would happen.
What was, like, your favorite failure?
The biggest one for me was retail really started getting hammered, right? And Pakistan was having trouble and all this stuff. And so at the time, it lasted over a period of time, but really what happened was I had built this team of people, and like 50-something people, and we were having a lot of fun and going on trips and all this different stuff for marketing and whatever. And it essentially came, the long story short of it is a day came where it's like, okay, we have to get out in front of this so that we don't actually have any problems. We have to let a lot of people go. We have to restructure how we do everything. We have to budget money. We have to like really be whatever. And I remember I was devastated. Like, it was literally for 6 months like the worst thing ever. Like every day at the office was like, sneak out and like just go walk around in the neighborhood behind the office because I'm like, this sucks. Every night I go home, it felt like every day there was some new like tragic news. It was just like, why am I even doing any of this? Like maybe all of this is a sham, like it's nothing. And it meant firing a lot of people and doing all that. Yeah. At the time, I looked at it as a massive failure because it's like, how could you not see this coming? How could you even put yourself in this situation? Like you think you're this like young entrepreneur, but you screwed up, you know? But what I learned from it was why you operate as lean as possible and why you be as, you know, adaptive as you possibly can with the least amount of money and keep the team tight and be very clear with the whole team on what their roles are and who you hire and fire and that process. And just, I don't know, like it made me refine everything that I do and make me feel, I mean, I still sign all of our checks. I still watch all of our budgets. I do all that stuff. It made me just watch everything so much closer and be so much more critiquing with everything. And I wouldn't change it. Ever, like no chance. And now I feel so much more, I can't explain, but like even when things were going well, like really well in the beginning, I always had this kind of feeling that's hard to explain that's like, I'm not fully in control. You know, and it's almost like, there's this stuff going on that I just don't get. And it was really just not fully understanding the business top to bottom. And now I do 100%. And I don't have that feeling at all. Of any of the negative thoughts I have, that's not one of them. I understand as a whole what we're doing, where we're spending money, why we're spending every dollar, where that's going, and where if I needed to cut, you know, $1 million, I could. But it only came from that. There's no other way I would have learned it. You know what I mean? If that wouldn't have happened, I don't even know. I feel like I would have ran into some other like really stupid problem. You know what I mean? Like some sort of.
What do you feel like is your best tool?
I don't have investors or board members or anything like that, or anyone that tells me what I need to do. So there's all these options of, well, social media is big, and well, maybe you should work on your following, maybe you should work on this, maybe you should blah, blah, blah. And there's all of these things. And I think that my best thing is I know how to sift through that, pick what I think is the right answer, and then get people on board to do that with me. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I think that when you start to grow, like everyone wants a staff and they want it to be real and they want employees, but when you have 50 employees and everyone has a different idea, it gets really hard because, I mean, at the time, especially like in the real like height of it or whatever, when I'm 26 years old and have a staff of 50 people and everyone knows what to do, you start to believe that maybe they do know better than you. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. But really, like, obviously you can get guidance from people and you can sort of curate information, but at the end of the day, you're the only one that knows what's best for you and for your thing. Yeah. And I think that like it was something that I built up over time, but I really just am able to field information from a lot of places and then say, this is what I think is best and here's how we're gonna do it. Because we can only do 3 things, you know, you can't do 30.
What motivated you?
Yeah, when I was 18, it was probably mostly the same as you. I pictured myself driving around in a Rolls Royce when I was in my Ford Tempo. Yeah. But I think that I've went through phases, to be honest, and I don't want to come off like, no, this is the way, because it was phases. And I think in the beginning, to be honest, it was driven by wanting to like be significant. Like I had an older brother that was always better than me at everything. And I moved out here and I was under Rob, who was amazing at everything. And these guys are big black and everyone's hilarious and whatever. And so I just wanted to like mean something. And so that started it. Then obviously I wanted to be rich. I wanted the Rolls Royce, I wanted watches and chains. And what it truly has evolved into, and I really mean this because I've done a lot of soul searching, is it's growth. I just want to grow. I just want to keep progressing and growing. And you're going to have days where you have massive breakthroughs, and you're going to have days where it was a very slow, hard to get growth. Yeah. But I want to get healthier. I want to get richer. I want to be a better businessman. I want to be a better leader. I want to be a better friend. I want to be a better son. I want to be, like, I truly do. You can see, if you look at my social media from 4 years ago, you can tell I just wanted to be rich. You know what I mean?
Remember those pictures.
Clear as day. Standing on a Rolls Royce and buying a Lamborghini. It's ridiculous. Yeah. But
that was cool though. You had fun. Like,
it was great, and I crossed it off. Yep. And I think you need to cross it off. And I think that what happens is when people lie to themselves and say they don't, you have some weird midlife crisis. You buy a Corvette. You have a whole different set of problems, right? but you cross off the things on your list if you're able to, and then you evolve. And now that's why you see everything that I'm putting out is much more about learning, reading, podcasting.
Like, I really see that you truly want to become a better person in all aspects of your life.
Yeah.
Like, I legit feel it, like, in your podcast, it inspires me a lot to do whatever it is I'm trying to do.
Yeah, thank you, man.
And it's dope. Like, you've always gave me that, but I just want to thank you for that. Of
course.
Like, it does help a lot.
Yeah, thank you, man. It means a
I
lot.
appreciate it.
Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, no problem.
You're the man, brother. Stay in touch.
Yeah.
Keep doing your thing.
Yes, sir.
And just keep pushing, man. Keep being uncomfortable.
Yeah.